well then I'll get started. I think I have 25 plus minutes.
25 plus minutes.
You just start to do like this, Andrew, when it's kind of, and I don't know if I'm kicking in any open doors here, but I thought I would talk a little bit about need-based product design from a conceptual point of view. And my name is Degn, associate professor, and located here in Umeå. So the colorful images that will be sliding past here are all representing of a relevant design opportunity that was identified by students of mine. Each of these have a great, interesting process, a lot of frustration and a lot of joy when they were presented at the end of the project that went on. So a lot of design is happening at UID, or Umeå Institute of Design. And maybe you already know this. Again, I hope I'm not kicking into many open doors, but what's industrial design? Well, I guess all the truth is on the internet, on Wikipedia. So if we have a look there, and there's a lot that is written in the English-speaking version of it. The Swedish is a little bit more condensed, but it's a strategic problem-solving process that drives innovation and leads to a better quality of life. Sounds nice. It has a deep understanding of user needs through empathy. We just heard that. It's a pragmatic, user-centric problem-solving process, according to Wikipedia. And it links innovation, technology, research, business, and customers together. And it kind of reframes problems as opportunities, looking through that the glass is half full, maybe not half empty. And it bridges the gap between what is and what's possible right now. I added that because we have the possibility and the superpowers to look into the future and try to imagine what is it really that we need. Not right now, not tomorrow, but maybe 10 years ahead from now. But dealing with physical products, and that's my world. I'm not from interaction, it's physical products. There's a physical consequence to what we do. And we are, of course, aware of that in more ways than one. So if we kind of look at industrial design and its impact, badly designed products, no matter when you start the injection molding machines, there will be an impact. We can't really get around it. And if the products are poorly designed, they break, people don't like them, they don't sell, that's an effort that there's no positive outcome of it. It will always have a negative impact. Of course, we know that digital solutions are replacing physical products, like with the phone, the smartphone, the apps that has replaced 20 products. There is an energy consumption, and somewhere there is a server hall that is buzzing, but hopefully it's charged by solar power. But over time, it will probably have a positive impact. But sometimes you just need to get a nail into the wall. Then you need something physical, and then you cannot use your mobile phone. I would not advise you to try it, at least. I did it once, but if we think through and we design what should be designed, yes, there will be a negative impact when we start those machines. But hopefully over time, if we think it through, considering the life cycles, that it is repairable, refurbishable, multiple users, maybe it can be sold once and then resold. And in order to actually get to that point, we need to rethink what it is we do before we get started. So R&D in design, I think, is critical. The industrial designer is part of it, but just a small cog in the wheel for that, because hopefully we can rethink the entire scenario. So I actually picture a product with fewer products. I think that's fine. I think we have to live in a different way, and I hope that it's my students who will design those solutions. So as a profession, and I'm kind of dumbing down a little bit, so please excuse me, but I do think it is and should be user-centered. We talked about empathy. It's a creative problem-solving process. I think it's craft. We build something, try something out, testing, prototyping, finding the perfect radius and so forth. Feel it with our fingers, do we like this or not? It's physical and digital product solutions that we are creating. When I studied 25 years back, it was only physical. But now, of course, the digital era has come in, so that's a part of it. It's producible and sustainable solutions for today's market, if you're a professional designer. And maybe innovation is part of it, not necessarily. And because that's sometimes not in this specification from the client. Maybe it should be a little bit better. If that is enough to actually classify it as an innovation, I don't know. But it can be, but not always. So looking at what we try to do at UID, it's pretty much the same thing, but we try to have more of a future outlook. Try to identify what's relevant, what should we aspire to do, and what could be sustainable, knowing what we know now. And then we often try to push for inspiration and explore the possibilities for innovation and inspiration so we can show it. Because publish or perish, if we cannot show it, we might not be as attractive for new talents to come to UID. So I guess you walked by the artistic campus, so we are right there in the middle, surrounded by a lot of interesting faculties and buildings and activities. I'm not going to go deep into this, but it's a small school, but there's a lot of design going on there, on 3 different levels, basic, advanced, and PhD, and I represent the one in the middle. That's the coolest program, in my opinion, but I'm biased. So again, we accept students that apply with work samples, and we handpick the ones that we'd like us to join us. Roughly 12 students on the master's program and 14, 15 on our bachelor level. And on site we have kind of a studio-based learning environment. We have always had that, where the students interact with each other, internal teachers and external teachers that we bring in from the studio. It's difficult, but when you sit in their car, watching them as they do something, sit in their kitchen, drink coffee with them, that's when it's really a power load of understanding that kicks in. And then collaborative creativity across previous backgrounds on master's level, languages. Here we have Swede, French, and a Chinese, trying to speak the joint language of visualization based on what an experience that they've just had. Our facilities are quite nice. I don't know if you will have the chance to visit our school, but we have nice workshops that are open 24/7 for our students in the 10 months that the study year goes on. And through playful activities, we try to introduce them to the professional tools and product understanding that is used in the industry today, which makes them quite employable directly. And again, Andrew has kind of spoiled, but I need to brag a little bit when I'm here because it's in my contract. So Red Dot, which is one of the many design venues, and I'm not saying it's the best one, but it's the one that has a ranking. And they started back in 2011 ranking the schools. And when Andrew, you oversold it a little bit because the Red Dot divides the world into 2, Asia and the Western world. But they have a ranking list for Americas and Europe. And there, when they had their first ranking in 2011, we were already positioned at number 2, and then through the years it has kind of gone on, and we have.
Les ateliers. Les ateliers, wasn't it? Yeah, I know.
And I guess a few weeks back it was the ranking for 2023 was announced. So of course we're quite happy with this. I'm not saying this is the best design venue in the world. There's IF, there's Core 77, and many others, but they do a ranking. And the majority of the awards won has come from students from my program. So I'm a little bit proud about that. But again, there's other awards that can be won, and these are the ones that we have shown here. So, but again, it's not something that students decide to do themselves. We do not force them to do this or participate in this. It's only if they think it's valuable. And then also from a more local point of view, we have the 5 past years, it has been a student from UID who has been the Swedish winner in the James Dyson Award. That will go to the international final. We have never had a winner of the international final, but we're hoping that Jovan from Serbia will do it this year. And if he does, he will win almost 400,000 Swedish kroners. So fingers crossed. Yeah, well, I want 10%. But I always say that, I never get it. But it's
we always say that too. Yeah.
But it's a unique experience. This is a photo taken at the degree party last May for the ones who graduated and the ones who just finished their first year. So you probably know this. So I'm going to go really quickly again through it. So this is not our invention. That is the double diamond from the UK Design Council, and it's kind of discover, define, develop, and deliver. And of course, empathy. I think that's something we can definitely relate to, understanding the users and what they need, because we're designing for others than ourselves. Define, figuring out what is it really that you should design, because when you know that, designing is easy, but it's figuring out what is it. And then you develop. You can do that in many different ways. You will be working in one way, that's great. We do maybe sketching a lot more, foam models to find the, let's say, the aesthetics of it. Maybe 3D modeling and 3D printing like you will be doing as well. And then of course delivering. Try to communicate in a powerful way the value that we're trying to sell the client or the user. Because if we're not able to communicate it in a way that people can kind of relate to or appreciate, there's probably a good chance that will never happen, even though the concept is really good. And we try to do this in the 10 to 20 weeks projects. 10 weeks for our term projects, we have 3 of those, and then every degree master students at UD do a 20-week degree project. So of the 80 weeks of studies at a master's program at UAD, 50 of those are dedicated to projects. So it's very practical. So again, what is it that should be designed? And when you know that, you hit the button and you design. Whatever way that is needed. So the project I thought I would share with you is a really old one. It was actually the first one on the slide projects I had in my first slide. So it was a project we did back in 2009, 2010. It was presented in January 2010. We did that sponsored by Umeå municipality, and we worked with the fire department here in the city. And the fire department is located not that far from here in that direction. So we did what we usually do, same process as we do now in 10 to 23. We tried to go there, we tried to see the context of the firefighters. In the morning, they took us out to the training facilities by the airport, where they let us test these jaws of light, these big hydraulic tools that they can use to pry doors open. And we cut off the roof of a Peugeot 406 and lifted it off, which you have to do if there's a person that might have a neck injury. They put on the fire in a container, and we had breathing equipment, and we went as close as we could until it really hurt our skins. And then some of the students got to try out the forces and powers in the water hose when you actually let it go. And it's quite impressive forces that are at play here. And the equipment is heavy, and it's tough, and it's clumsy, and so forth. But that's just how it is. And that's just the standardized group photo. So we're kind of a poor assembly of firefighters there, but we did our best. And then the students returned to the fire department in smaller groups in the following days, just to get up close. Go into the nitty-gritty parts, what's actually in the bags, what's located what at which truck. Taking in a lot of information, asking stupid questions, getting answers to it, and when you're in reality, when you're in real life happens. So this wasn't really planned. And then we get to watch them, how they, back then, come from the kind of the social areas at the offices, and they start to kind of prepare for moving out with the fire truck. And we can see how they communicate, what was pre-prepared, how they maybe stopped to look at a certain TV screen to see the information they had at this point, what's happening right now. But they are, of course, super quick. So, and it's extremely valuable just to be there in that moment, to get this experience, to hear the diesel engines powering up, understand which truck goes out first, and so forth. And I'm gonna jump forward, but so it was just an automatic alarm. So there was no real fire, but they need to react to it within 90 seconds anyway, and it's good practice. So maybe it's not a bad thing, even though that it costs a little bit of money every time that they move out. But when we came back, it's then kind of the traditional process, try to analyze, structure, compartmentalize the input with post-its. What did we see? What did we hear? Question marks, new ideas. We started to visualize in the way that, in a kind of a more creative, emotional way, what could actually happen, tying together different narratives. Starting to kind of come up with initial concepts, ideas on day 3. Couldn't we have something that does this? And they said, then wouldn't it be fantastic if this flew by itself? And then we try to try these out through role plays. Testing ideas that hasn't really taken any physical form yet, but doing quick mock-ups and playing it out. Yes, it's a lot of fun, and maybe it is 55% fun, but there is 45% truth to it, that you actually can get answers to some of it. But again, it's a nice way of teaming up. And this guy from Turkey, Umeå, he did the project that I'm going to focus on. So there were 12 individual projects. He did one of them that he called See-Through. So he was fascinated by the situation of the firefighters, smoke divers, sorry. And here we see an image from the US with the traditional helmets that they have there. And the lack of visibility when they go into a room where there's a lot of smoke. This is the current equipment that I picked up from the internet not far back. The Americans stand out a little bit with the traditional helmet. But, oh, I think that's me. Sorry. but it's pretty much the same thing. They have a helmet, they have a breathing mask, they have certain protective equipment. So often they have a radio inside the mask and so forth. But it's kind of the same setup. And what we also learned back then was that when the smoke diver goes in, and it's not like there's a lot of fire, you can see everything. It's often smoky, you have no idea. So what we learned was that when they enter the room, they will do what the first visualization here to the left. They will go in, holding the fire hose in their left hand, use their right hand, and then they'll go in, and then they'll feel, is that a kind of an interest to a room? Maybe we should go in. And then they'll do a quick check, because they go in to save lives. Are there anyone to save? And they try to do this quickly, because they don't really know what will happen 60 seconds from now. If they have time, they will do the same thing again, but taking the outer walls. It takes longer time, and they will only do that if the situation enables it. But they are kind of tying up their hands, because they're using their right hand to feel their way forward, and then in the left hand they have the fire hose, because if they hear evacuate, 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 it's the fire hose that will lead them out. So they call it their lifeline. So that was a really, we had no idea about this before we went there, so that was really interesting. So Umeå, jumping to his concept, because we also heard that the firefighters like to debrief and talk and need to cool off when they get outside. He had this idea he could do a kind of an astronaut, a knight's helmet that had everything built in. So it will be a helmet, even a chin protection, a mask that can be put up like a visor, everything included, even a navigation of this work. You can see it here, kind of a lit up AR on the inside of the visor. So everything included. This would be the full Monty. It was a beautiful concept, but of course insanely complex. But as a whole, as a story, to tie it all together, very, very, very impressive. So this was his vision, that the smoke diver would be able to see exactly this. The contours, maybe even see what is a doorknob and what could maybe be a door or something into a cabinet. And of course that he or she could save lives and have their hands available to whatever they need to do. They would know where they would put their foot without actually hesitating, so they can move quickly through the room. A vision. And again, a little bit of a pumped up visualization for how it could be. I don't think that the music's supposed to be there when they're in the room, but I guess we, just to get across what it could be, you could have contact with the captain outside, who's actually in charge of what you do. Maybe that person could use the cursor to point, have a look over there, and you'll just find you'll follow the circle. Maybe that could be a kind of a countdown to when you are at the center of a building. You could of course see what's the temperature, are there any gases in the room and whatnot. There's no limit to what you could imagine that this could do. And this was the benchmarking of the technology. It was inspired by the technology that at that point were in the fighter jets with the military, and some of the technology that was out there. But it was incredibly clumsy and big. So back in 2010, this would not be possible. But the concept was appreciated. We were twice in the Swedish Firefighters monthly magazine. And that was kind of fun. And here we have Umeå and his process going through that. And if we should go into details, we could with the process and how he tried things out visually, physical, and so forth. But that's not really the interesting part. We're kind of jumping forward in time. So January 2010, this was the initial concept that was being presented. It got a lot of buzz. They called us from the US, from Germany, and they wanted to buy this. But of course, it's not really relevant. And as Umeå presented this on a Friday in January, he started something new on the following Monday. Then he graduated, left Umeå. He submitted to a design competition in the US in 2012, got a gold award, and he started to work as a professional designer in a consultancy X, but I guess weren't that excited about the work that he was supposed to do. So in 2015, he bumped into two comrades in arms, and they thought that this idea was so cool, because there was a lot of what you call a positive feedback that came from firefighters particularly, that wouldn't be cool to do this. So back in 2015 they started a company called Quake Technologies. They started with basic, quick, ugly prototyping, putting a webcam on a helmet and moving around, and saw what that would happen. In 2016 they understood that we have to communicate this to get funding, so they kind of took out a new concept. You still see that the full helmet is a part of it. There's a camera built into the front of the helmet, so in theory it's just a more ugly version of his initial concept. But now they try to see, okay, can we really do this? Because this is not possible. But it's beautiful. But they still tried. And then they realized that, yeah, but then every fire department who buys this, they have to buy a new helmet. And they already have helmets, but does that make sense then? So they try to focus on the breathing mask and have a system on the inside of the visor protected from the heat and maybe something being hit on it. So they took this concept and kind of made a new prototype in 2018. We saw this, it came up on the social media where they actually tried out this also to get additional funding. I'm going to show you a small video and I hope there's some nice music that goes along with it.
I am a captain at the Menlo Park Fire Protection District. I have a total of 23 years of service.
John Renner. I'm an engineer, and I've been a firefighter for 18 years.
Greg Womble, been with Menlo Park Fire about 16 years, been a firefighter for 22.
Will Fitzsimmons, been a firefighter with Menlo Park for about 2 years now.
Joe Foster, I've been a firefighter for going on, this is my 3rd year, and I'm an engineer.
Nick Mara, firefighter EMT, only been on for about 1.5 years.
Something like this, to have a tick camera in your mask and to free up your hands, I think you're going to see a lot of buy-in.
Once somebody gives it a try, once they actually put their hands on it, use it in a scenario, they're going to see that thermal imaging goes way beyond with the Quake system.
My experience was great today. Being able to test out this new technology that you think about when you're watching a superhero movie.
The first reaction of any firefighter who's been doing this a long time is to resist change and move away from technology.
Biggest thing that we have to worry about is firefighter safety.
Searching a room, having knowing temperatures and flashover conditions, fire behavior, victim searches, crew continuity. To have that ability in your mask is it's only going to help us.
It was incredible. I don't get a lot of time with thermal camos at all. The way we do our searches, typically it's anchored base by a captain.
The see-through technology is amazing. It absolutely is. It's cutting edge. It separates thermal imaging from anything out there in the market.
New technology we used today was incredible. It broke down everything as far as you could see from wall to wall in the room.
This takes it to that next level. You can use both of your hands.
It was clearly the fastest that I found a victim out of all 3 drills.
Great to be on the new front end of the technology wave, and pulling in, it's going to make a huge difference in our day-to-day for searches.
I've got a lot of experience using thermal imaging cameras, dating back to the military. We started using them before they were released to civilian world. This specific technology sets it so far apart from even what we have today.
I put it on and it's like you got to get used to it for a second. You get your bearings. I mean, it's cool. You're walking through and you got an outline of the whole room in green.
In all my years in the fire service, NFPA has been around to make us safe and to keep us alive and keep us healthy. To not have this pass and be an NFA standard would be a very sad day. Having the ability to catch yourself from falling, to search for victims, to assist your crew, to pull a hose line, it was just a completely different experience than anything I've ever experienced before.
I was able to see all the walls, all the poles, all the stairs really easily. I could see the outlines of my finger.
It was crazy how quick and how easy it was to search. Unbelievable. There was no wasted steps at all. We're down to what, 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of air when we're huffing and puffing. All that air really adds up, so you need every single drop.
The see-through technologies, it's pretty amazing just how it gives you depth in a room, shows all the edges, really allows you to flow through a room to do a search much quicker. You can clear rooms, clear areas that normally the TIC doesn't give you the depth perception that you really need or want.
Not to have a TIC camera in my hand, not to worry about looking down at a little camera, but just to have a heads-up display of what I'm looking at and to be able to relay it if a crew was with me was pretty incredible.
I think that this hits the market, gets out, gets in our hands, and we're going to save more lives. It truly is limitless.
So I guess you picked up that they were they liked the concept and it went really quick. And I think there was one who said that every step counted. And of course, the less time they have to be in there, in theory, they can save lives. And of course, the more safe it is for them to get out as quickly as they can. So that was in 2018. And with this visualization, they were able to get additional funding from the American Homeland Security. But still, the concept was flawed. It required a special designed mask, or that you will have to adapt the existing mask to it. Because again, the downside would be that, okay, if you want this, you need to buy a complete new mask system. And depending on how the investments are within a certain fire department, it might be difficult for fire department to buy a completely new mask when they actually have masks that works fine, just to get this navigation solution. But again, this was what they needed. So if you go to the Quake Technologies website, this is kind of what you see. So now they have taken it to the next step, specially designed for the American markets and the iconic American firefighter helmet. So it's now disconnected from the mask. You literally place it on top of your helmet. They have been able to secure that the projection surface where you will see the augmented reality is strong enough to resist the fires and the temperatures in these contexts. So it is ready to be launched on the market now. Some small animations that they have on their websites, but it's kind of the same concept. Where you can kind of see with the green outline where you're supposed to go, navigation with the blue arrow going forward. And also they have fine-tuned the software, so the fire captain outside on a kind of a tablet PC will be able to see multiple firefighters where they are, on what level and so forth. That person can have a complete overview of his colleagues inside room location X. So this is kind of a journey that Umeå went on, started back in 2010, now in 2013. So this took 10 weeks. This took 8 years. And I guess also fighting somewhat from financing to financing along the line. But that's just how it goes if you want to be an entrepreneur. But the idea was, back then it was the full Monty. It was the helmet, it was the mask, the visor, the navigation, and I don't know if we were just as impressed with the helmet, but actually the money maker was in the visualization and navigation and the digital background that comes with it, also seen from the perspective of the firefighters outside of the building. So that was quickly. I hope I made it within the time window I was given. Are there any questions regarding this or something else that I may have said? Did it make sense? Was it boring? So, but you will actually make stuff that works. That's really cool. That's quite a challenge. We have the freedom of thinking 10 years ahead. But wouldn't it be nice? But you have to make stuff. So it's going to be fun. I hope you will have a great week.
Thank you.